I think when you've got AI in robotics, like embodied AI, so you take the human capital out of business and replace it with automated like capital generation. There's if you look at people who are trying to take everything, where did they get it from? Now, mostly it would be from us, from the people who don't have everything. It's like the king took all the money from his serfs or whatever. But when AI and robotics come along, and human capital's not the thing that's got the value anymore because the human part's gone, then it's like, where do those folk get the money from? Because they can't extract it from people. Controlling people will become less relevant. And controlling people only really is relevant if they've got something you want, like they've got capital or they've got labour, they've got a way of creating capital. But if you look at a future that we're going to, the thing that creates capital will just be a machine. Now, they could own all the machines and like that would be a different thing. But it's like, why then would you want to control the population? So the population at that point would be something that you can't extract value from. So it then becomes a little bit problematic because if you were if you were a control freak, you'd be saying we can't extract value from them, and they're going to take some of our resources. It then becomes even more dystopian. That it's not that you would enslave the poor; they're no value to you. So that can become quite dystopian if you take the human capital out from companies or whatever revenue generation. You're really taking capital out completely, and the world is all about purely resources. Then, so it's an interesting time, I think, for humanity. How do we run society when you remove a control infrastructure? We'll have machines that can build houses for us, get food for us, and more than enough food for everyone. So the poor wouldn't be a drain on the rich. So you would have this ability for an abundance of materials, abundance of food, abundance of energy, that you then have a situation where the person who's trying to be more can't exist. So you might actually have ultimately a flat society, a completely flat society where there's just no point in trying to have more than your neighbour because your neighbour could just look at your new house and say, robot, build me a house the same as that, or but so and that could be an interesting thing because I think humans have already evolved, like as we spoke about before, past animals that we make our own environment. We can put a heater and a cooler in a house, and we can live anywhere on the planet, whether that part can take us or not. And to do that, we created money, and that created control and all that. But as we move on, the next phase of society may have no money at all. It may have no scarcity at all. And then what do you do? And like at that point, then I think it could become massively interesting because I don't think, with the best will in the world, that we could even begin to contemplate what that would be like. And I think getting to there, and this is where I think some of the commentators are correct, from where we are to an era of abundance and no scarcity, there's probably complete and utter chaos as society has to change. And that chaotic part, I think, could be very dangerous. So we're coming to a point in life, I think, which is, yeah, there's a rainbow, there's a pot of gold at the end of it. 100% that is there. We're where we are just now. A lot of people are going to like lose their power. A lot of people are going to attain power. And can we cope? Can we actually move from where we are to there? Because right now, if you imagine, a child can get the best education known to mankind out of like talking to AIs and whatnot. So I do think there is a period of change which is way more dramatic than we've ever had before. It's worse than being invaded by a foreign army. We're going to have a period of change which will be very, very dramatic. And I think it's interesting because even now you see with the autonomy network, like, so we MaidSafe created this thing, we're launching it, we're letting it go. And even doing that, you see a lot of people going, no, no, you have to keep hold of it, steer it this way, make it go, make it do that, and make it do the next thing. And you're kind of like, it'll do what it does. And then all these people are coming with this impossible futures thing, and they'll be the ones that are famous. Some of them will be famous. We'll be away in the background. But even as we are doing this, you can see people like, yeah, we want a decentralized network. We don't want control at all. We want the whole world. And then as we are releasing it, it's like, oh, hang on a second, mate, say, you have to make it do this, make it do that, make it do the next thing. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating. And it's brilliant as well because that's, it's a learning thing, but that's society. Like, there's so many different things about it. And actually setting out to have no control over something, I think is a really good, it's admirable. And people supporting you saying, this is great, don't have control, don't have, and as it's all happening, a lot of people are, hang on a minute, you weren't serious, were you? And you're going to have some control, aren't you? The great power, I think, of humanity moving forward is this ability to let go, or the ability to have, like, temper your own bias or ego and understand that no matter what you think or how you feel, a group should respond. Like, we make the Autonomy Network, and yeah, people should do this. They might do the exact opposite, and that should be okay. Because if you're making something like autonomy for the world and for everyone to be able to use it, and they all start equal, or whatever, you've got to be able to accept that the way it's used will be very different from what you could think. It'll be very different from what everybody who's screaming about, we should do this and you should do that. And really, you kind of have to put these things out, have the vision, which I think we've got a great vision, and remove all forms of control that you could possibly have from it moving forward. So it's like you sort of push it off from the side and let the world have at it. When when we went from, like, computers to networks to wide area networks to the internet, we we gave people in their houses a router, and behind that router we said, you can't have an address on the internet. We'll give you an address from the router and we'll translate it. We're not allowing you to connect directly to the internet. There's lots of reasons for that, but one more cited reason is security. The other one is we were running out of addresses for the internet. So your router would get one address and you could have multiple things behind it. And that all was fine. And it actually is fine for the client server model. If you're Google and Facebook, and you love this NAT traversal thing, you love it because it means that people in their home, they can't run a web server, they can't run a voice chat thing because they don't have an internet address. And so the world grew up, and all of these internet service providers said, yeah, we're going to give all these routers. None of these people can actually directly connect to the internet. They have to come through us. And governments never had said, that is brilliant because we could monitor those people then through your connection. We could see what's going on. We could prevent them from doing their own website because who knows what they would put on their website or whatever. The website companies, your Googles and Facebooks, were like, oh yes, please don't let them have their own websites. They must use us. And so the NAT devices like routers became widely, widely adopted to where it is the only way now that people get on the internet. Really, realistically, it's the only way people from home get on the internet. So we now live in a world where we've got all these millions and billions of people connecting to internet from home. At their home, they might have 100 devices that connect to them, but none of those devices are actually directly connected. They're all through the router, through the ISP, through. And when when people like Autonomi are saying, why don't we just connect every person to every other person through some network? That would be so much better. We don't need to then connect through Google and Facebook and all the rest of it. All of these internet service providers, backed by governments, supported by the big corporations, have made it not really possible to connect. So what we do in Autonomi is try and work out a way that we can allow these devices to connect even virtually to the internet properly, like so people can connect to them and they can connect to other people. And that's the NAT traversal problem. So it's a problem that society shouldn't have. If you were an alien landing on the planet, you would look and say, that's amazing. They've created a global communication network. And then you'd look closer and think, what's Google? What's Facebook? What's all these things? Why are they not talking just to each other? And so that's the goal, is to have every person's computer being able to talk to every other person's computer and not go through the large corporations. And that really means not go through these routers the way that we're going through them. So that's the NAT traversal problem. And it was just a mistake that society made, that we all get trapped in our own houses under lock and key by the corporations behind these routers. And we're trying to break everybody out. We're basically trying to get you out of the matrix. There's several things you can do. There's a thing called ICE, stun, turn. There's a few different algorithms that work for maybe up to 90% of people. So we can free about 90% of people from the matrix. And we've got algorithms and we've got mechanisms to do that, which we're working on. Other people are working on them too. There is industry standards. And the hope would be that the remaining 10% can see, oh my God, the ISP I've got is a terrible, terrible ISP. This router I've got, I'll just change and I'll leave the matrix myself. So we can break 90% of them free and let the other 10% break free themselves. It's now the time where we're getting out to the world. We're getting through the builders, and we're not the boss of them. And what I think is super cool though is getting it done. It's just this whole fall over, smash your nose in the pavement, get up, crawl about, fall over again, break your arm, keep going and keep going. I think this is a good thing, and I think a lot of people in our community appreciate that we are not looking for perfection in anything here. It's like trying to grow a bunch of plants here. Some of them live, some of them die, some of them do brilliantly. The analogy holds. It's almost like MaidSafe are the ones who have planted all this stuff. And it's now up to the plants what ones grow, because we don't need to be the ones who have sat down and said, what application is it that we can build which will take over? What is the one that will take off? We've just said, let's do 1 million applications. One of them will take off. I just love it all. I think it's a fascinating part of the journey to be at this point where we're at, and we've got the thing moving, and we've got people coming in and they're building stuff on it. And some of the stuff they're building I'll like, some of it I won't like. And that doesn't matter. That makes no difference whatsoever. So I think it's a superb time, but it's also, from a psychological perspective or whatever, a team perspective, it's fascinating to watch the whole of society and how they react like to it. And I love it. Woo.